What up, racer? ItsJerone here, and welcome back to a new league racing video. Today we're back on F1 2021, of course, and we're here for the Saudi Arabian GP in Apex Online Racing, which is the 6th round of the season, and we'll switch over to the standings now. Of course, it's dry here, and you can see we made massive strides in terms of championship standings on the last two races, and we won the last two races. Greeks didn't have the best of performances, so that means we have quite a significant gap now heading into the 6th round of the season. And preparation for this was not the best. I've had one of my most busy weeks I've ever had, so I couldn't really practice for this race, as you might imagine. And I stole setup from a good friend of mine, and I have to say, this was a really good setup. I adjusted, some little things, but the whole philosophy behind the setup was really good, so that was good. And recently I had driven this track in F2 cars, so I sort of knew where the track went, and just jumped online like an hour before the race, and yeah, to be honest, it felt pretty good. Now, as you could see, I immediately cut turn 1, and that's because I wanted to invalidate on purpose, so the Haas blocking me there was not a problem at all. Didn't really mind, and my philosophy here was to go for a set of mediums and start the race on that tire compound. So that first lap on softs was just a banker lap, and now our medium time is at 28.4, which currently puts us P8 in the standings, or the qualification results at the moment. Was hoping to be a little bit higher, but there's quite a significant tire delta between the mediums and the softs here, so probably it wasn't too bad at all. As you can see, pole is a low 27th now.
We're 17th in the speed trap, 303.5 kilometers per hour.
I really don't know what sort of setup people are running in this league, but I always seem to be either top of the speed trap or bottom of the speed trap. And this time with 8.6 wings, I'm apparently bottom of the speed trap, so that's interesting. But I did decide to go out on softs, and that was because I just wanted to see what sort of lap time I could do, and that was a really good turns 1 and 2 there. This turn 3 was not amazing, but we'll have to carry the speed through the rest of the first sector now, really using the exit there and getting very close to the wall on the inside. And overall it's quite a strong first sector, as we actually get a bit of slipstream there from Sneaky Ninja, which was nice, as we now head through the hairpin. Short shift to 5th gear, could have been a bit more aggressive. Could have gone a bit closer to the wall there, but so far this is actually looking like quite a strong lap. Got on the power early there. Make sure you head over to the left hand side just to minimize the distance a little bit, and this is just completely flat through the streets of Jeddah here, braking just before the 50 down to 6th, and you can use that exit curb completely because the track limits are defined by the white line, and that curb is actually within the white line, so it always looks a little bit strange when I see footage around Jeddah, but that's just how you have to drive the track. Will we do a Max Verstappen? No, we don't, but we do miss the apex on the left. And are we going to complete this lap? Well, it's been spoiled by the title. We're going for an alternative strategy today, because I really believe that the alternative strategy is quicker than doing a normal strategy. Now, you could see there with about 1.45 seconds subtracted from my time. That would have been very close for pole position, and I actually think it would have been pole position. But I wanted to do something different for this race, and I actually think this is the better strategy. So, we'll see what we can do on this alternative strategy. Now, there's one sort of little prerequisite in order to make the strategy work. And that's the fact that the DRS train must not fall apart too much on the first stint of the race, because if the DRS train does fall apart, then it means we might be in trouble towards the end of the race, because the gap would be too big to make up the deficit on the softs later on. As you can see now, we're P11 on the grid, and we're lining up for the 5 red lights at Jeddah. It's got dark now, so we're under the floodlights, and we're underway. Behind the Ferrari, we opt to go for the inside, a little bit cautious, heading into turn 1, as we should be, and we're currently side by side with the Ferrari of Hasnain, and we do get a bit better traction on the outside, and we do manage to make up one position, as we're heading into Turn 3 now, no major incidents so far, so that's good. It seems everyone has made it through the first sector cleanly. Well, actually saying that, up front there, a little bit of fighting, and Crow actually had a horrible run through the first couple of corners, so the DRS train is already broken up a little bit, or I think he's like at 9/10 at the moment, as No Mercy ran a little bit deep there in his McLaren, but nothing I can do on my medium tires at this point in the race. The grip is just not there to go down the inside, so decided to wait, and we're now heading into the final couple of corners, braking for the final turn, and actually everyone brakes relatively early, but I also usually take quite a deep line, so maybe it was the combination of both that caught me out there. And Hasnain, considering he's on fresh softs, I just decided to let him go at this point. But Bankai is actually really close as well. He had a mega start from, I believe, P17 on the grid. But then the Ferrari, oh no, it's a Spinella. Yikes.
Okay, good work.
Not great for Hasnain there. Locked up the left front, it seems,
Okay,
and
clear.
went for a spin. So immediately I have quite a bit of work to do, because on my harder compound tire I immediately have to close up to all the soft runners again. But fortunately I have a lot of ERS to do so, and we actually pick up our first track limits warning in the process there. But it seemed like the pace was not really there in the middle of the pack at the moment, so it actually was not too difficult to close up. And you can see now there's a bit of fighting going on in front of me, and you can also see that the DRS train is not present anymore. You can see my teammate, who put in a lot of practice for this race, is leading, and Squeaks in second, Tash in third, and then there's a DRS train from fourth until, well, somewhere P11, P12. So a couple of medium runners are in this train, and unfortunately my teammate is getting away from the rest of the pack, and Squeaks as well as Tash, so that's not optimal. Now, I was basically always on 100%, but I didn't want to go for a move too early, because it's just very dangerous to go for moves around Jeddah. It can definitely bite you, and considering the DRS train was already broken up, I decided not to take too many risks at this moment in time. Tried to put a little bit of pressure on No Mercy there, but on that exit out of the final corner he decided to use a lot of ERS, and I decided I was not going to do that, so I'll just sit on my ERS for a little bit longer. And you can see now we're on lap 8 of the race. We still have 100% on the battery. Pedro in the meanwhile has managed to overtake Bankai, and you can see another race update. My teammates pulled away from Greeks even more, and it will be really hard to catch up to my teammate towards the end of the race. So considering the pit window for the softs is now open, I decided to play a little bit more aggressive, as their soft tires are now fading and my mediums really are getting into the good window. So we're going down the inside of No Mercy here, and actually trying to go down the inside of Crow as well, but not really managing to make that work. But you can see now both Solid and Crow are pulling into the pit lane for their first stop of the race. No Mercy decides to stay out, and quite a couple of other soft runners decide to stay out. I think probably lap 9 or lap 10 is the ideal pit lap when you're on softs, so I think they're doing a better strategy than Solid and Crow. But you can see I pushed quite hard on the ERS levels and managed to just about close up to within a second of Mika. So that was very good news, and we will get the DRS all the way down to the final corner. The DRS is a very powerful tool around this track, unless everyone else has DRS in front of you as well, because then it means you're stuck in a DRS train and it's quite difficult to overtake. Now, lap 9, Mika also decides to pull into the pit lane, so we don't have to waste a lot of ERS in order to get past, and we can use the ERS instead to try and set our own pace now for the rest of the race, and basically try to drive as quickly as possible until my own pit window. Teammates pitting on lap 11, and we now take the net lead of the race, which is good. But you can also see on the top left now, my teammates will emerge only about 5 seconds behind me, and my teammates of course on fresh mediums now, and I will get onto a fresh set of softs towards the end of the race. But pit stop here is, I'm not entirely sure, about 20 seconds, 23 seconds, something like that. So it really does take a lot of time, and it will be very difficult to close that gap towards the end of the race. Now Gweeks is about 10.5 seconds behind, so that seems maybe a lot more likely to pull off, as in the meanwhile my teammate got past Bankai heading into that hairpin, so my teammate already up to P3, and now as we skip on a couple of laps later, up to P2. Gaps to Gweeks is about 9.8 as we head into the pit lane now. It's lap 14, and in my opinion this is the ideal pit lap to go if you're in clean air. So that's what we're going to do. Pedro decided to follow me in as well. And let's see where we emerge relative to Solid, Mika and Crow. And we actually emerge about 3 seconds in front of them, and that's because they had to deal with some traffic on old mediums and caught them in quite awkward places from what I could see. So I managed to pull off the overcut, and I think they were fighting among each other as well, which definitely cost them a bit of time. I think it also would have been a little bit unlikely for them to keep me behind for the whole race, because the softs really are strong. But you can see now, my main rival, Gweeks, had a spin there, and he's now dropped quite a couple of positions. In the meanwhile, we also pick up our 3-second time penalty, which was quite stupid. I got a little bit distracted by this spin. Gweeks losing it out of one of the fast corners, and good thing for him is that he didn't pick up any damage, but it does mean he dropped back from my teammates, so he has no chance to challenge for the win anymore. And well, it now brings me in a good position to gain a couple more points on him. So you can see now, starting lap 18, and this was the lap I closed up to Solid Ninja, and I wasn't close enough to do anything into turn 1, so this probably is not the best timing if I really want to catch up to my teammates. Ideally you want to catch cars in the 3rd sector rather than in the 1st sector. So we now have Sneaky Ninja in front of us on 0 seconds of time penalties, which is quite strong, but he has just lost DRS to Tash. So are we going to try it down the inside heading into this hairpin? And the answer is no, because Sneaky was using a bit of ERS on that exit, so decided not to waste any of mine and decided to just save up the battery, sit behind Sneaky for the rest of this lap. And you can see now heading onto the DRS straight, but we're actually not going to use it because I think Sneaky may have actually let me go if I had decided to use it. But it's really strong to get DRS for the 2nd straight, because the DRS detection point is right here, and I just decided to wait for this one to make sure Sneaky couldn't do anything sneaky. Terrible joke. But we do manage to pass him here, heading into lap 19, and the next on our hit list is Tash, who has 6 seconds of time penalties already, and you can see the gap to my teammates in front. It's nearly 10 seconds, and we only have 6 laps of the race remaining. So even though the softs are really strong, I think it's highly unlikely I'll be able to close up 10 seconds. But you can see now, end of lap 19, heading on to lap 20. Tash does not decide to defend this, and I'm actually going to use this lap as an opportunity to set the fastest lap of the race. Even though we already have it, I think I can set a lot sharper time, because got some free DRS down that main straight, and I've never really used a lot of ERS to set that fastest lap I had at the moment, so we're going to use it. It's also good to see as a benchmark relative to my teammates how much I would be able to gain if I would push on for the rest of the race, and the answer to that would be about 1.5 seconds, but that would still not be enough to challenge for the lead. So at this point I realized I can't do anything, and as you can see, the gap in the end decreased to about 6.5 seconds, but probably could have brought it down to 4 or maybe 5 seconds if I had really pushed it, but there was no reason to push hard for the final lap of the race, or the final couple of laps, because I wouldn't be close enough to my teammates to force anything. Plus I have a 3-second time penalty, so it wouldn't have mattered. As you can see, Gap stole the fastest lap away by 0.003 of a second, but he finished outside of the top 10, and the fastest lap point is distributed to the person who has the quickest lap time within the top 10. So in the end, it's a 19 points haul for me, with Gweeks down in P9. He had some instant with Mika later on in the race as well. My teammates a very convincing victory. Tash with a good 3rd place, and for my race it probably was not the best to do this alternative strategy, but I had a lot of fun cutting my way through the field. Next week there won't be an AOR video because we have a break week due to the real life Jeddah race. That means a new video will be there in 2 weeks time, which is for another street circuit around Baku. If you're excited for that video, then subscribing is the way to go to make sure you don't miss that video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.